Hello everybody and welcome back to F1 22 with me, Dan, and the BMW Slothz team as we come into the French Grand Prix today. The first half of the season is now behind us and now it is time to begin the second half. Of course, starting with the negotiation with Carlos Sainz. He's costing us a little bit more than he did previously, but that's not a bad thing. And also heading over to get up the spec-free facility for the power unit and also quality control for the durability because it's been awful. Jumping over to R&D, just patching up a couple of the failed components and also getting another tyre wear component locked in as well. And then over to start the long drag between now and the start of the race, cycling through all of these different events. It's time to choose a new rival as well, and well, given the fact that we've only got two options to choose from, both of them are at the same team, we're going to go with Max Verstappen just to make things a bit more interesting. He is closer to us in the championship, at least. So the power unit reliability department actually got built there, so I believe the actual power unit performance will have come through as well, which means we should be able to finally get some spec-free parts for the power unit on the car and just work in the background on the reliability as well. Jumping between the two there just to see if we can find something that we can try before the end of the session. We're going to go with the energy store, which ultimately failed and was a poor decision to go for. Over to practice 2. Points up for grabs in a few places. There's one of them. There's another 180 for our tally. All of this helping, of course, towards reeling in the McLarens and the Red Bulls, who have been dominating this season. Ferrari dropping away, along with Alpine, who have kind of been there on and off over the course of the season. Mercedes, oh my goodness, way down the order, with one of their drivers having not scored any points at all, which they have tried to remediate during this race. They've swapped one of their drivers, the only driver change at the midpoint in the season, and we'll see who that is in just a moment. But before we get onto the race, just a quick jump over to get that reliability upgrade. Okay then, so it's over to the French Grand Prix, and as I mentioned just now, we've got one driver change coming up for this race and onwards in the Mercedes garage. We'll see who that is in just a moment, but we'll be looking to try and improve on our previous performance over in Austria, where we dropped down quite significantly. And to see that race and any future races, don't forget to like this video, hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell as well, so you know when those videos are being uploaded. And we'll get on with the starting grid order in just a second and see who the new driver is at Mercedes. And here we go then with the starting grid order, but on the front row it is Lando Norris, and amazingly our teammate Carlos Sainz has managed to get into the front row slot. We're a bit further down though because of some rain in qualifying. They're followed by Fernando Alonso and Sergio Perez, Esteban Ocon and George Russell, Lewis Hamilton and Pierre Gasly, and Kevin Magnussen and Robert Schwartzman, the new Mercedes driver. Oscar Piastri, then Yuki Tsunoda, Radiant Slothz and Mick Schumacher, Charles Leclerc with a penalty alongside Zhou Guanyu, Max Verstappen and Nicolas Latifi, then Alex Albon and Lance Stroll, and finally it's Théo Pourchaire and Dan Ticktum, who's been demoted to the Alfa Romeo unit after underperforming at Mercedes. So as you can see, plenty of penalties up and down the field. Max Verstappen also getting caught up by the rain in qualifying. So it's race time. Right, down to the track then for the Grand Prix. We've got a lot of ground to make up in a car which wasn't really performing that well anyway, not to mention the fact that it was caught out by rain. Anyway, down to turn 1 we go. We've got Charles Leclerc with his penalty already challenging us into the first corner. We're going to have to slide it between him and Yuki Tsunoda, and he actually ends up cutting the corner and runs off the track. We've managed to make up a position into P12 as we come into the chaos that's Robert Schwartzman trying to get hold of his new car. We go around the outside of him and Oscar Piastri, make our way into the top 10 at last, and try and make some headway now on everyone else. Kevin Magnussen still in the top 10, amazing for the Haas driver. And talking of a Haas driver, Oscar Piastri now coming down on our right-hand side. Clearly quite good in a straight line, that Haas. Anyway, into the kind of left-hand corner hairpin thing. And we've managed to stay ahead of Oscar Piastri by deploying some of that ERS. Up ahead, my God, Lando Norris with an enormous lead already, as we watch George Russell try and go up the inside of Kevin Magnussen now. And into the sweeping right-hander they go. George Russell continuing his trend of hitting every car that he tries to overtake. Snags the front of Magnussen's car there. We join our teammate who is currently leading everyone else around on lap 2, but he's pulling over. We're going to have a retirement for the first time at the BMW iteration of this team. And he pulls off to the side of the road, and he will not be very happy. That is going to cost us as a team quite significantly in this Constructors' Championship. And him personally, he's got a lot of headway to make up as we now make moves on Kevin Magnussen. And we go round the outside of the sweeping right-hander, and I think he actually brake checked there to try and stay on the road. Hit him actually there as we come across into the braking zone. That was our fault, and we managed to get P8 regardless. Not so great that we had to make contact, much in the same way that George Russell did. Russell incredibly stuck behind the Ford AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly right now, who has just made an appearance out of nowhere. Their car has not been particularly good for the past few races. We'll see the performance graph later on. They have jumped up quite significantly as we try and make a move into turn 1 on Russell, force him to the outside, and manage to make the move stick up into P7, which is a favourite finishing position for last year. This is on board with Russell. Big lock up into turn 1, immediately allows us through, and he's going to have to sheepishly follow, although he may actually drop out of DRS range because of how far he dropped back from that lock up. No threat from Kevin Magnussen though, as we follow Pierre Gasly, who I think this is probably his best race ever so far this season. Another Frenchman doing quite well, Esteban Ocon, up into P4 ahead of Lewis Hamilton. As we come round towards the pit stops, we're not peeling in with everybody else because there is rain beginning to fall on the circuit, and we may have to roll the dice here on strategy. It's not so obvious right now, but once we go on board, you'll see it on the halo. And now we have decided to come in on lap 7. Sergio Perez and Fernando Alonso both doing the same thing. Also clearly having second thoughts about whether or not they should come in yet or not. We hold up Sergio Perez on the pit stop there, and presumably Fernando Alonso lost a bit of time as well. And we're going to have a nice clean bit of pit lane to move out into as long as this goes well, and it does. So where will we come out? We're still running quite well here. We may not lose a single position as we come out of the pit lane. We're up into P6. Lewis Hamilton up ahead. You can see the rain is absolutely hammering down right now, and that's not helping the fact that we got cold tyres on. Although weather forecasts do predict that it will not be wet enough on track for the DRS to be disabled or for the intermediates to be required, as we close up to the back of the Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton fully expected to get a retirement message before the end of the season that he is going, considering that he's made this move to Ferrari. We lift into the flat right just in case he brake checks us and go to the outside. We're going to make the same move again around the Ferrari. He's weaving all over the place, and we managed to get the move from done on him. Up ahead, championship rival Fernando Alonso sits behind Esteban Ocon and Sergio Perez. This was the onboard of Lewis Hamilton. Comes into the corner. Here's us coming on his left. He starts correcting way too much there for that corner, and ultimately cost him a position as he comes round towards the pit entry. And we rejoin a slippery Esteban Ocon on the DRS straight. He's good timing there that we've got the DRS disabled with only 2 more runs of this straight to do. Can we get past Ocon and challenge Alonso for a podium, though? That is the question. Ocon, amazingly not on the hard tyre for a change, but unluckily for him, we're up his inside as we go into the flat right-hander, and he does yield, probably disappointing many of the fans who are surrounding the stadium, who have to watch a Brit overtake a fellow Frenchman. And we rejoin on lap 13 of 13 now. Up ahead, Lando Norris, 7-second lead over Sergio Perez. Clearly that McLaren has become quite overpowered. And, well, even we've managed to pull a 2-second gap on the Alpine of Ocon. So this little group doing quite well. Robert Schwartzman, for his first time out with Mercedes, down in 15th, which isn't great. George Russell barely hanging on to points. He's got Pierre Gasly, well, I would say within DRS range, but there's no DRS on the on these last laps. And Kevin Magnussen still in the top 10, although he is under threat from the other Ford AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda. As for us, so we're still running P4 behind Fernando Alonso, and it's going to take an absolute miracle to try and get past this man before the end of the race. We got had no DRS there. Not that that would have mattered, because that McLaren is quite quick anyway. He doesn't have the DRS from Sergio Perez ahead of him, but it still would have been quite a struggle. And you can see we're running quite wide there on what is becoming quite a slippery track, which has not helped matters for us. And as we come round the final few corners, we'll have to settle for P4, but that's still 12 points to try and keep us within striking distance of the World Championship and ultimately the Drivers' Championship trophy. The constructors, though, still a lot of work to do now, especially with Carlos Sainz going out. We crash across the finish line to try and cheer up the French, who have had to watch multiple French drivers fall down the field. It's raining, and Lando Norris has won the race. Not helping matters, though. We've picked up driver of the day, which will not be pleasing a lot of them. But miraculously, the rain has stopped instantaneously on the in-lap. Lando Norris clearly dedicating this win to the sun gods, and is very happy. I knew they wore orange for something. It must be part of their worship of whichever sun god they choose to pray for. But he's going to celebrate with the champagne, and we will get over to looking at the race results. And here are the final results, with Lando Norris picking up the win and the fastest lap. He's followed by Sergio Perez and Fernando Alonso on the podium. Then we had Radiant Slothz, Esteban Ocon, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Pierre Gasly, Charles Leclerc and Kevin Magnussen round out the top 10. So over to the Drivers' Championship, and Fernando Alonso takes the lead of this incredibly close championship by just 1 point after passing the halfway mark over Radiant Slothz. Then we had Lando Norris just 3 points behind. Then we have Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, Lance Stroll and Esteban Ocon rounding out the top 10. Further down the order, we have George Russell, Pierre Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda, Kevin Magnussen, Dan Ticktum, Oscar Piastri, Alex Albon, Teo Pourchaire, Robert Schwartzman, Mick Schumacher, Zhou Guanyu and Nicholas Latifi. And over to the Constructors' Championship, we have McLaren, Red Bull and BMW Slothz are clear leaders at the moment, followed by Ferrari, Alpine, Mercedes, AlphaTauri, Haas, Williams, Audi and Aston Martin. And that's all for this video. We'll catch you in the next one.